the reality is that almost all oils oxidize. All right. So when they oxidize, they release free radicals. And also when they're heated, they release free radicals. And this is a contribution to cancer, to all kinds of things, but especially to inflammation.
What about coconut oil?
Lots of controversy about coconut oil. It is it is saturated fat. And it is better to cook with from the standpoint of its heat point. Its heat point is high, and so that's good. But then again, it has saturated fat. It's concentrated. It's not a natural food. I mean, you cannot go wrong with consuming whole foods in their natural form, and to not adulterate them, to minimize any kind of processing, even at home. All right, even at home, because again, if you process, even when you're blending, oh God, that is not the right that is not the way you want to go. Okay, so just to turn it off. Okay, so that's where it's at. I'm going to show you how to do it. What I like to use, you can use water. You don't need to use veggie broth, but I make up my own veggie broth every week. And I use that because it's full of vitamins and minerals, and it also has more taste to it than just plain water. So I usually make veggie broth, and then use it in my sauteing. So I'm going to. Do you want to? Turn that and come over here to show. So I'm going to heat up this pan. And the other thing about your cookware is you need to make sure that your pan is well heated, because it actually seals the pores on your pan so that it can take food onto it without it sticking right away. When you don't have it hot enough, it's going to be stickier. So that's an important part, is to wait until. Now the big test for how to get there and that you're at the exact stage that you want to be. Let me just get a little bit of water here. Is to throw a little bit, just a touch of water onto your pan, and to make sure that it bubbles, that you get that nice bubble, and then your pan is ready. Okay, so we're going to wait on that. Meantime, any questions?
What kind of cookware are you using?
I believe this is a I think this is a Meeson pan, but I've done it in just a stainless steel with no nonstick coating. Okay. It works either way.
Okay.
Someone else coming in?
Yeah, Chris.
So I'm going to why don't you put that right over here, and let's just see what happens when I throw that little bit of water on. Nothing. It's definitely not hot enough. Okay, so.
Right, it should dance.
So if you're going to use olive oil, yes, it should dance. Thank you, Nina. If you're going to use olive oil, I would recommend that you do it after you cook your food. Drizzle it on, because at that point, at least it's in its best form. Now, I don't know, did all of you end up reading? There was a big brouhaha about, 4 or 5 months ago, one article after another, about the olive oil that you think you're getting. Pure olive oil is not what you're getting. Did you all?
Yeah.
Did you notice that? Read that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes,
I just,
most of the olive oil is cut with other oil, polyunsaturated oils, so that most of the olive oil that was tested at the most was about 50% actual olive oil. So even though you think you're getting, because olive oil is monounsaturated fats, even though you think that's what you're, it's not what you're getting, because half of it is polyunsaturated, and that's the stuff that especially will cause inflammation. So you know, I mean, to me, it's like, oh, I need to know my source. I need to know where it was done. I need to know how pure it is. Me, I don't need to know anything because I'm not using it. So I don't have to worry about it. Okay. All right. Let's just take another look here. Nope, still nothing. All right. Get a little higher. So that's the that was the tragic story. I mean, I was pretty upset reading that, even though it doesn't really concern me. Who do we have? Who's
So Alma Fletcher and Marge Price is coming back in.
okay.
And we have Chris Ortega, Debbie.
Oh, great. Hi, Chris. Great. Glad you're here. Very nice. All right. So what, just if you missed something, what's happening right now is what I've said is that in order to really be able to work with your vegetables and get them not to stick to the pan and still do oil-free cooking, you need to make sure that your pan is well heated and that you test it out and make sure that it's well heated before you put in any food. And the test, I'm using the water test, which is just to okay, so now I've got some sizzle. It's not quite a bubble, but it is a good sizzle. So that should be ready shortly. But I'm looking for like a real bubble, for it to create a bubble that kind of moves around on the on your pan, and then you know you're ready to go. And fortunately, my husband chopped up a bunch of onions, red onions, and so that's what I'm going to throw onto the pan. All right, let's see how we're doing. All right, now my bubbles are moving. You see that movement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now it's ready. Okay. Get my spatula. And you got your sizzle. Just, you know, I mean, I never thought about this. You know, if I hadn't seen this from someone else and learn about oil-free cooking, you know, again, I learned it from someone else and never and haven't looked back. So I don't need to add anything to this right now because it is moving nicely around the pan without a problem. Because we've gotten the pan hot, it's not sticking, but eventually it will start, it will get, you know, it'll start sticking. Even if you had oil in it, that happens. So at that point, you want to add either some water or some veggie broth. I like to use my veggie broth, and I will add a small amount. You want it, you throw. The other thing, do not walk away from your pan. Phone rings, don't answer it. Okay, you don't want to walk away from the pan. So you need to keep near it so that you can see what's happening. And if it starts to get a little sticky, you want to put a little moisture in there, but only enough for things to keep moving. Not, be careful, don't put too much, because then you're cooking, you're braising the onions, you're not frying them anymore. And I want to saute them. So that's, I want to keep sauteing these onions. And I've made, you know, caramelized onions without any oil. Any questions?
How do you make your veggie broth?
How do I make my veggie broth? I make my veggie broth with pretty simple, like almost anything, you know, leftover when I take the leaves off my kale. I'll save the ribs
Mhm.
of the kale. I'll put that away, knowing that I'm going to put it in my veggie broth. My leftover sad looking parsley, I'll put that in the veggie broth. Carrots, onion, the standard carrot, onion, celery, that for sure goes in the veggie broth. And then these kind of other things that I have around. I do like putting some dried mushrooms in my veggie broth, give it more body. I'll put some bay leaves, I'll put some peppercorns. Oh, and I also actually put some kombu seaweed, because seaweed is a powerhouse of minerals. And so this way, that goes into my veggie broth, and I end up with a healthy veggie broth that I use for my soups and for also for this purpose. So again, I am still not needing to put any moisture in there. This is still frying away happily without any additional moisture. Has anyone tried this at all, or is this really all totally brand new?
I just started because
Uh-huh.
you brought up the topic. I said, I'm going to start cooking
Oh,
without
uh-huh,
oil. So I just
uh-huh.
started, but
Okay.
I've been using a little bit of water and a little bit of better than bouillon. You know
Yeah,
what
the
that
better
is?
than bouillon. I have that. That's always my go-to if I somehow am out of my own veggie broth. Better than bouillon, vegetable bouillon, which I get usually at Costco. I have that always as my standby, and it's a
Mhm.
very tasty bouillon.
What's better about it?
The bouillon,
Yeah.
it's very,
That's
it's
the
just good.
brand.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's just a brand that's very good.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well,
oh,
better
I
than
thought
bouillon.
maybe
That's the brand.
it's because
That's the name. That's its
The
name.
name.
Better than bouillon.
right. But
And
is
you
it
can buy it
better
at
because
Costco.
is it better because it's what, low sodium or something of that sort?
It is low sodium. Yes.
Well, that's what makes it better then.
Do you ever use gold bullion?
No. No, that's it. Better than bouillon, and otherwise I'm making my own stock. So those are my two things.
Right. You would never use muggy, right?
That's right. I mean, maybe many years ago. All right. So
Yeah, good.
yeah, if you come closer, you can see that it is still no problem moving around, getting brown. It's getting a little brown here, and moving around nicely in the pan. So in this case, I'm not even sure I'm going to end up having to put any stock in, but I wanted to show you how to do that. So I think I'm just going to do it, even though it doesn't need it. So if you're watching, so just that little bit that you would put in, and then see that, make sure that your veggies are moving around freely. Okay, so that's really it. There's this, it's pretty simple. It's a matter of, now you will find that you taste more of the actual food. Because and I have also found, honestly, when my husband and I go to a restaurant, one of the best things I can say about the restaurant, it wasn't greasy. Okay, because I mean, I don't expect restaurants to cook like this. Okay, and that's the other problem when you go to a restaurant, is they don't cook like this. So it's like, okay, I'm compromising myself, but the best thing I can say about the meal is that it wasn't greasy, that they actually minimized their use of oil. Because I have come to hate the taste of greasy food. Like, it really turns me off in a big way. And I don't feel good with it at this point. So it's easy for me to continue doing this, because I'm not the one compromised. You know what I mean? It's that thing of, oh, how could you eat, without oil? How could? No, this is what I prefer. Okay, so, but there is not to say there's not a transition. When you are used to making food with oil, it has a certain mouthfeel that you will not be getting. All right. But you are going to be getting more of the food. So it's a more direct experience of the whatever it is, the vegetables or whatever you're eating. So your taste buds will change. Mine have changed enormously. I've talked about the fact that I don't eat sugar, and that's going to be the next thing at 7:45, that I'll be making the dessert that I'm going to be making without any sugar, because for me, if I have something with sugar in it, it's just way too sweet. I don't enjoy it. So that's a change. What you think that 30 years ago I didn't like something, which I like things with sugar, but now I don't. So I'm just saying your taste buds do change, and you're better off for it, of course. So any questions?
Are there any vegetables that are going to release more moisture? So cooking without oil is going to just be easier?
Well, definitely that happens with mushrooms.
Right. Okay.
Mushrooms do release, and even onions. This didn't really release anything, but a lot of times onions do, especially if you put some salt on it. Mm-hmm. Then it will release moisture, and that's another thing that you can do, so that you use that moisture to keep cooking with that until it gets to the point where, yes, it may stick, and then you'll add your additional liquid. Anything else? All right, so I
have a question for you, Paulette.
Yes, go ahead, because I can't see anybody right now. Okay, you can see me, but I can't see you.
So, it's really important, of course, to achieve some balance between, carbs and protein and fat. So how do you get your fat?
Okay. So for instance, yesterday we were together, and I had this beautiful, I love this recipe, by the way. I really like this new recipe that I did yesterday. I made a kale strawberry salad, and it was even just as good, the leftover that I had today. It's just really great salad. So how is this made? It was made with shredded kale. All right, I got kale at the farmer's market, shredded that up, and then took some avocado, which is high fat, but a whole fat. Took avocado and massaged it into the kale. So that breaks down the cell walls of the kale, so it softens it and makes it much more edible. And then also used a little bit of additional avocado chopped up in little cubes to go into the salad. And then there was also the sliced strawberries. I'm just giving you the whole salad. It's a delicious salad. Sliced strawberries. And then the dressing was made with, let me think about it for a second, with some balsamic. No, was there balsamic in that? I think it was balsamic. And some little bit of maple syrup. And that was it. And that went onto the salad. It was absolutely delicious. This nice, simple. Oh no, I also added some walnuts. There again is a very nutritious fat linked to lowering cholesterol and good for heart health. And so I had walnuts and I had avocado. Those were my fats in that salad.
Would you share that recipe with us?
Absolutely. It's a really good recipe. It's absolutely delicious, especially with the strawberries from the farmer's market. The taste, like, it really brought out the sweetness that contrast with the kale and brought out the sweetness of those strawberries. And it was really delicious.
It looked good.
Yeah, it was real good. All right, anything else?
I have one question. So I don't know if you ever do like, wok recipes and things. And, usually all those recipes, like I have Kenji Lopez Alt's, book about the wok. And all
Yes.
those recipes use some oil. What do you use? Like if you're, wok frying something.
Right. Okay. So one of my favorite things to make, I make it pretty much certainly twice a month. It's in my constant rotation type of thing, is a stir fry. And sometimes I make it with tofu. Sometimes I make it just with vegetables.
Mhm.
And I have a wok, and I use the wok. The same method I showed you here is what I use with the wok. And then I add, sometimes I like the way some people work the stir fry idea, which is that they'll make up a sauce, and I've done that too, where you make up the sauce that you then want to coat all your stir fry ingredients with, but that goes in at the end. So while you're preparing, you're doing the water or broth, sauteing, bringing in your next vegetables, and you continue on. And then when you've got it, then you put your sauce on and coat all the vegetables with that. So yeah, I always do that without oil.
Today I made a stir fry, and I usually put a little sesame oil, and I thought, no, I'm not going to cook with oil. So I put a sprinkle of sesame seeds on it.
Oh yeah, that's great, especially at the end. Just to top that with sesame seeds is lovely. Yeah. But I will use a little, not in the stir fry, but sometimes in the sauce. I will put a little sesame oil just for the flavoring.
Okay.
Okay. But yes, the sesame seeds, it's even better, of course. Yeah.
And I would marinate the mushrooms and the tofu with a little bit of soy sauce and vinegar.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Is this
Paulette,
new?
have you ever not been tempted though with some of these exotic oils, truffle, lemon?
100%. Not now, but in the past, especially with but here's the thing, Nina, and this is for everyone. This is the important thing for me. I consider food my medicine.
Okay.
So it's medicine first, taste second, enjoyment. Taste and enjoyment is second. My first thing is it's got to be serving me. Okay, and that's
priority. Nice priority. Yes.
No, I mean, it's taken many years to get there, but that's definitely where I'm at now. I mean, especially because I know there's a lot of food that I can enjoy. So why not make the medicine part of the food the priority if I'm going to enjoy the food anyway. But it's just choices, Yeah. And yeah, and when if we want to, I don't like to use the word cheat, but if that means more to you, of course, when I go out, I'm a lot looser in I like it's just like anything, you take your medicine, but when you go out to party or whatever, you're not taking, it's a different thing. So I don't like to be too rigid, but I think by many other people's standards, I probably am, but I don't consider myself that because because I am in mixed company, people who don't eat like me, and that's fine. And we go to places and I you know, I end up doing things there that I don't do at home. Like, as I say, eat something that is made with oil that I wouldn't do here. So
If you go to a restaurant, do you ask the server to tell the cook that you don't want oil or minimize oil? Do you ever ask for that? Or is that too hard for a restaurant?
it's really hard
Like
for
a
a restaurant.
restaurant.
You're asking, you're now a very
Demanding customer.
difficult customer.
Okay.
But I try to choose things on the menu
Mhm.
that I know are probably not going to be too too oily.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of the way I approach it.
Mhm.
All right, is everybody ready to try this?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Because, you know, it's just such a, I mean, for those of you, especially, as I say, for those of you who are in any way interested in losing some weight or at least not gaining weight, dropping the oil part of things is going to make a huge difference. Now, I can do a whole thing on salad dressings. I make all kinds of different salad dressings. Now, this is where, Debbie, to your question again, I usually use some form of fat in my salad dressings, but not oil. So a lot of times I'll use cashews to make a creamy dressing. In order not to get too crazy with cashews, because that can also be like, oh, you know, it's high, dense calorie, lots of fat. I a lot of times will cut it with half cooked white beans and half cashews, so that I still get the creamy, but it's not as fat. And then, of course, all kinds of different flavoring with that. So, and then I have just some salad dressings that I make with tahini. Again, we're dealing with a fat, but sesame seeds are very, very high in calcium. And given the fact that I don't do dairy, I do need to pay attention to my calcium intake. And so I do use tahini and sesame seeds. But of course, all the greens, the really dark greens, have a lot of calcium in them as well. So yeah, so I've got a whole lot of different salad dressings that I make, and never use oil for those.
For your tahini, are you using a commercial brand like Trader Joe's, or are you actually making your own tahini?
I'm using a commercial brand.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just sesame seeds.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it. All
So
right. Well,
have you always been non-dairy? I mean, like you wouldn't do any kind of a yogurt-based dressing?
I do things with yogurt, but it's plant-based yogurt.
Ooh.
Yeah, plant-based yogurt. In fact, I made a yogurt the other day myself. But
Well,
otherwise, I use otherwise my choice for yogurt is this yogurt here. It's called Forager Organic Probiotic Cashew Milk Yogurt.
And you get that New Leaf, or where do you
You
get
can
it?
get it at New Leaf.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Huh.
I get this at Azure, but you
Okay.
can get it at New Leaf. It's too bad that Costco used to have this, but they haven't had it in ages.
Interesting. Good.
And of course, the other thing is equipment. How many of you have a high speed blender?
Yes,
Oh,
I have a,
Yeah.
and a food processor.
Oh, I have a Ninja. Woo.
Yeah, Ninja's good. The rest of you, you have a high speed, because high speed blenders really make things very smooth and creamy.
Really?
And it's very hard to get it with just your $30 blender type of
Right.
thing. It's really hard to get that kind of quality and consistency, texture that you want.
So do you
So
want
I
to show us
highly
yours?
recommend. This one is the K-Tech, basically the two blenders before Ninja came onto the scene. The two major blenders were in the health food scene have always been the Vitamix and the K-Tech, and I had both. I still have the one part of the Vitamix. We need to get a replacement, but this works, so I haven't bothered replacing my Vitamix because I need a replacement top. And so this works. This is a high speed. This is one of these high speed blenders. And yes, they cost, $300 or even $400, but the reality is they are a lifetime investment. So this is the kind of thing you can hand down to, your kids, your grandkids, whatever. They'll love you for it. So that's the thing. I mean, the first thing I got, amongst many other presents, but the first thing I got my son and daughter-in-law was a Vitamix for their wedding. It's like, if you're going to start out it's with a house, gotta have a Vitamix.